If you're working with a file-based camera, a camera that records onto a hard disk or records onto a card like an SD card or a compact flash card, and this is where like all the DSLRs fall into, you know, or the Panasonic AF100 or the Sony FS900 or 700 or, yeah, I can't even keep track of all these cameras. Virtually all cameras these days record to files, all modern cameras, Red and the Arri, Alexa, and there's so many. And if you connect that camera to your computer or insert the card into a card reader in your computer, which is one of the most common situations, what will happen is I'm going to insert an SD card right now. I insert it into my computer. It automatically opens my import window. It takes a second for the card to read, and then there it goes. The window opens. You see, there's my disk. It appears under cameras because it is essentially a camera. And there was a little pie chart that was there as it was loading. You could see that happening. And then here, if we look in the main area of the import window, here is all of our footage, right? And this is the same thing just as when we were looking at the folder on your hard disk, but now we're looking at it straight from the SD card. So when you're in a situation like this, where you're looking at the card, the footage from the card, you absolutely are going to want to copy this to your hard drive. So I'm going to just say, import selected to open this window. And you'll see in cases like this, the leave files in place option is disabled because you can't access the footage in Final Cut if the files are on a removable card or they're on a camera. You need to move them into your local hard drives. So either manually in the Finder, you need to make a duplicate of that SD card, or at least you need to say copy files into when you're importing the footage in Final Cut. Now I want to say that it's very, very wise to make a manual copy. This is your raw footage. Presumably it's valuable to you. You don't want to lose it. And those SD cards, you probably want to reuse them, or especially if it's a compact flash card or if it's a P2 card or something that's relatively expensive. And so you need to make a duplicate of this source footage on your computer. And I recommend doing this on an external hard drive so you've got more than one copy. I mean, ideally, I would say make 2 copies onto separate drives. In the unlikely event that one of those drives fails, you'll still have a backup of that very important source footage. And it's very important when you do that to copy the entire contents of the disk, not just the file. So switching to the Finder, here is my no-name disk. It's a SD card, and this was, I believe, shot on a Sony FS100 or FS700 or something. And when I open, what's inside is this folder called Private, and then in there's something called ABCHD, and then a folder called Sony. Again, you really don't want to mess with this structure because sometimes there are hidden files or files that you may look like they don't have anything in them, but they actually have metadata that's important to understand what the footage is. So you always want to copy the entirety of the disk, not even just the private folder, but the disk itself. And the way to do that, just drag that icon right there, press the Option key, and that will create a copy, and then copy that to a drive, to an external hard drive or to your local hard drive. You want to do that, and then that will make a duplicate of the entire no-name disk. Then you can rename it. You can rename it from no-name to, Sony Disk 4 or whatever is useful for you. But then you have a duplicate of the entire file structure. And of course, when you look at it in Final Cut Pro, you won't need this card anymore. You can disconnect it from the camera. You would navigate on your hard drive to the folder which contained all those elements, and that's what we did in the earlier tutorial. But I just want to show you how you would import it directly from the camera as well, which is it would show up here in the camera list, and then you have access to all your footage. And from there on, you import everything's the same. You select the clips that you want. You say Import Selected, choose the event that you want to add it to, choose whether to copy the files, and so forth.